Welcome to School of Rock Bottom with Oliver Mason. I'm an actor, a voiceover artist and a recovery coach, and I know firsthand that rock bottom can be the greatest teacher and a springboard for a beautiful life. And it's all these careers and life experiences combined that have given birth to this podcast. And as you know, I invite fellow creatives and inspiring people that have hit rock bottom, thrived, survived, and gone on to live these most incredible lives. And I'm really delighted today because I've got the amazing John Pickard in the studio. How are you, John?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Nice to see you again.
Mate, it's really good to see you. I really appreciate you coming down.
No, thanks for having me. Honestly, yeah, it was a pleasure. When we spoke about it a few months ago, I was like, yeah, let's get me on. So, yeah.
Yeah, really appreciate it. I'm sure you all know who John is, but just in case you've been under a rock, I'm just going to give John a quick bio and then we're just going to get straight into it. So, John Pickard, a true Londoner and actor with a career spanning 25 years. John has left an indelible mark, gracing the screens of many UK TV classics, including 2.4 Children and Hollyoaks. And that just scratches the surface. Not content with just being in front of the camera, he seamlessly transitioned into the role of first assistant director, lending his expertise to a variety of films, including 2 feature productions and Channel 4 soaps. In 2016, he embarked on a new adventure by founding Wild Street, an independent production company that became a temporary home for crafting documentaries for Channel 4, short films, and countless proof of concepts for commissioners. John recently completed a screenwriting MA at Goldsmiths and now contributes his creative prowess, love that, to Bear Jam, an independent production company based in the vibrant district of Brixton.
Yes, nice one.
Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you, ChatGPT. Can't even say Chat. What is it, ChatPT? No.
I always get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly, me too.
I think it's
GBT.
John, I've obviously invited you on because you're a brilliant creative, and a fantastic human. But you've had a rock bottom in your life. I think you might have had more than one.
Yeah.
And I know from that you've learned so much about yourself, and it's sort of springboarded you on to have the life and career that you've got today.
Yeah.
I wondered if we could start there with the rock bottom that you've chosen, and then, to use a filmmaking term, we'll just kind of pan out from that point.
Yeah, lovely. I mean, I danced with rock bottom a lot of times. I think the kind of key moment for me was 2011 after I left Hollyoaks. I was kind of in a state of, like I was using drugs and drink and was in a relationship which was lovely, but the girl I was with, she wanted to take it in a different way, more serious. And but yeah, I just remember I remember signing on behind Channel 4's headquarters in Victoria. It's pretty low, really. And I was even doing a job in security at one point and getting like heckled in the street. That's Don from Hollyoaks, and I was in a high-vis jacket. It's pretty dark place to be. It wasn't because of any kind of. I enjoyed trying to get work, but I felt like that was pretty shameful, really, at that stage. I think the fact I was probably a little bit of paranoia, but like thinking there's a Channel 4 building. I've just been employed by them. Now I'm signing on behind there.
Yeah.
I'm doing security work. I wanted to do security because I had this dream of being a writer, so I thought work some night shifts and obviously but it was quite soul destroying, some of that. I did meet some characters and there's some good stories in there, but yeah, I felt so far away from anything that I'd ever done in my life that I was like, what am I doing, and then subsequently the girl who I was with at the time, she wanted to start a family and I just wasn't ready, and I felt like that was another thing, that trajectory of her leaving as well, and yeah, just that was a real dark time for me, 2011.
Yeah,
but subsequently I walked straight back into that Channel 4 building 5 years later and got a commission myself, with a Bournemouth documentary about how to make a documentary, and sort of blagged it. So there is strength in that kind of, in those dark places, and you can see when you look back, you go, wow, I was there signing on, worried about the place I'd just come from. Now I'm walking back in the headquarters, and I got myself a commission. So I feel sometimes the darkness and those rock bottom places, you need to be there because they've got to teach you something. And I feel like, so I've been clean for 5 years. So I wasn't even out of all of that at that stage. I was still probably in denial about a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I got clean much later on, and obviously been clean 5 years. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I hugely applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Just for listeners that maybe aren't so, aware of what the term clean means, what does that mean to you? You've been clean 5 years.
I've complete abstinence from all substances, alcohol, any kind of drugs at all, hallucinogenics, whatever it is,
Right.
So I think the only stimulants I have now is coffee and
And I haven't even given you that today. I think it's got sparkling water.
Or the odd Red Bull or caffeine shot of Coca-Cola.
Yeah. So going back to that rock bottom where I guess it sounds like a sort of a low moment, almost where your self-esteem kind of hit the floor. That's kind of how it felt to me. You were sort of identifying this other job as reading it as a failure or something.
I think it's just self-fulfilling. Kind of wanted to experience a little bit of that pain as well. I don't know what it was. I mean, I'm a little bit like that as a Scorpio. Like I like to feel a lot of, I don't know, like I always wanted to be normal. Like I had a career growing up where I was always under the spotlight, from the age of 10 to 19, being in a show that had 14 million viewers and having that, what that does to you as a kid growing up. I feel like that fame sometimes can distort a lot of things, and wanting to kind of have normal life. So I kind of got that, whatever that was. It was like, how normal do you want it to be? Like, here we go. I'm walking around being a security guard, I mean, I don't know what that was about, but it was a journey that I went on.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, it was like kind of the job as well, so mind numbing. It's like, you're doing nothing really. You're like protecting something that doesn't need protecting, it's like, it was weird. But I mean, I met some nice characters there, like I said, but nice people.
Yeah,
I think I've always met nice people wherever I've gone and whatever I've done, which is always nice. But I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm just that life experience and whatever that was.
Yeah.
Craving for something that is so far away removed from anything that I've been doing.
Right.
But also as a poison chalice to kind of go, I don't know, to sort of destroy it as well.
Right. And is that where that darkness took you in terms of how you felt about yourself in that moment? Specifically because you've been clean 5 years, is that then what happened? You then sort of use drugs and alcohol as a way to sort of deal with your demons?
Possibly, yeah, like self-sabotage. And I think it comes from a lack of self-love as well. So I don't know, as I mentioned as well, I grew up living in pubs, and as much as I wouldn't change any of that, growing up, I feel like that skewed some sense of like normalcy of what life's about and what is right and what is wrong around drinking and sort of partying. My dad was the best character in the world. I was a Londoner and we had some amazing pubs and, but it did skew something growing up for me that I kind of thought that was normal as well,
Right.
So, and what are you supposed to do when you've seen it from 5 years old at the back steps of a pub in central London? It does skew something. So I think I've been kind of trying to reevaluate that in my sobriety as well, like what is normal, what isn't, and whatever that means. You know what I mean?
Quite interesting. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's two quite interesting things there. One is sort of growing up in a pub, and then obviously the environment you grow up in, you just, as a child at 5 anyway, you just deem that as normal. This is what life is. So you're getting those signals that drinking and probably drug taking, I'm sure you probably came across that on occasion as well in a pub, times, is what adults do, and this is quite normal.
Yeah.
But then you got fame very, very young, and fame is like a drug, isn't it? You get a massive...
Of course. Yeah.
I don't often sort of go back into people's childhood on this show, maybe not as much as you'd imagine, but I think with the context of what we're talking about and the trajectory of your career and the things that happened, could you take us back to that moment? What happened? How were you discovered, and how did your career start?
Yeah, so we went to a stage school in Hammersmith. It was called Ravenscourt. Originally it was called Corona, and then when the lady, her name was Rona Knight, when she sold it to Robin, he had to change the name. It was kind of part of the handover. So we went to a stage school. I'm three brothers, so I was the middle son. My older brother was going to another school at the time, and I just wasn't one of them kids. He liked reading, and I was like into other things. So I feel like we went to a stage school because my dad was around actors in the pub, and they suggested it. They thought I'd be good, go into something like that. So I went from the age of 5. But my dad was a boxer, like when I came home and said like I want to have ballet shoes and tights, I think he thought, what am I doing to my son, But it was a good school. Like the 16-year-olds knew the 5-year-olds. It was a really like family feel to it. But through that, being at a school that had an agency attached, we would be sent for castings like most stage schools, and got lucky, got a few commercials and TV shows and things like that, and just worked. But from that age, it was very much like you're working, I remember when we went to Sylvia Young's, another famous theatre school, we had to pay for our own school fees out of the earnings, so it was like it was in their incentive to get you work as well. It was part of the syllabus, if you like, of training as an actor, but also being an actor, and obviously filling the remit for kids that need to be in shows, playing family members or whatever else, you know. But so it was kind of, it was like a working school, if you like.
Wow. And like you say, 2.4 children, which I guess, like you say, you had lots of work as a kid, but that's probably, would you say, the biggest job you had as a child, because it was such a massive show, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the fact that I started on that at, like, I went through my childhood in that show to a degree. I started, I think I was 11 and finished about 21.
Wow.
So so that was a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot really there. But I enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed what I was doing. It was kind of quite fun, you know. I had two families at one point. It was like play them off each other, you know, like. So it was quite nice times, good times.
Absolutely. I mean, I think anyone sort of listening to that would overwhelmingly see the positive of that. It sounds like amazing. I'd love to be in a series for 10 years.
Exactly,
But I guess at 11, what you're getting used to is a certain level of lifestyle, a certain level of fame. And I would imagine, if it was me, I mean, at 21, I was just leaving drama school and just starting. But I would imagine at me at 21 of 10 years, I would just expect that then to be my career, and that I'm just going to then keep going up the ladder. Did that sort of play into the rock bottom later? Because did you go into Hollyoaks sort of straight after that? Or
no, after I went into Hollyoaks from 2005 to 2011. Yeah. So I think the it's weird because when you're in a show like that for, I don't know, like 10 years, I think it just felt normal to me. I don't know why. Maybe the rock bottom was the sense of it ending and everything. You know, obviously Gary died as well, who played my dad in it. So there was a lot of stuff around that, I think, as well. I haven't dealt with a lot of death and things properly in the right way. Yeah. So maybe that was a trigger. I don't know.
Yeah. And so, you know, did you find sort of pockets where you're out of work, which all actors have? Do you think in a way you sort of found it harder because you'd had that success young? Did it sting you a little bit more, do you think?
Possibly, yeah. Maybe the ego craves it. I remember one point I felt like being famous was the most important thing, and actually it's the least important thing. It's about doing the work or whatever it is that you enjoy. Maybe I didn't enjoy it anymore towards the end of it. I don't know. Maybe there was a sense of that. Possibly. I don't know. You've done something for so long that you start to resent it a little bit, like the whole thing. I don't know. There's maybe a little bit of that, if I'm being brutally honest about, where I was like, what is this? I don't know. Yeah. Kind of had it all so easy that you kind of, I don't know.
A lot of performers that I've had on this podcast have talked about fame feeling a bit like a drug. I mean, I don't know whether you would phrase it quite so strongly, but a lot of guests have talked about how, you know, you're pursuing this thing. We know you get a lot of dopamine release just from pursuing something, often more. Yeah. And then fame is like bang. And then, of course, you experience that high and you want more of it and you can chase it. The reason I use that analogy again, and I come back to it, is because you just said, you know, maybe I'd stop enjoying it and I was still pursuing it, which is obviously something you see with substances as well.
Yeah, of course.
I think there's any truth to that?
I think you could be right. Absolutely. Yeah. That there's a sense of not being honest with yourself about what you're experiencing, whether you're enjoying it, why you're still doing it. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes a sense of obligation, like you should be doing it because that's what you've been doing for so long. Yeah. Rather than having some time out to go, what do I really want to be doing? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's amazing what you've gone on to do. I know we'll definitely talk about that in a bit. Yeah. You know? Obviously, to go completely sort of abstinent from everything, apart from caffeine, as you say. Yeah. Why did you make that decision?
Well, firstly, I was my daughter was born, which was a massive revelation in terms of life and, you know, being a father. Suddenly, like a wake up call, because when she was born, I was still sort of not dabbling, but I was, you know, like every now and then social. And I went out and wet the baby's head and actually had a bit of a meltdown. And my partner, we haven't been together that long, she like just looked at me and it was like, this isn't going to work. Right. And I just thought, wow, am I prepared to throw all of that away as well? You know, like this new beginning. So I did it for her, but I also did it for me. And, but I feel having that driving force was probably the biggest thing, you know, wake up call, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Just, yeah, you know, and also changing the karma There's karma to be when you've seen my dad died an alcoholic, so there's things I'm changing for her.
Oh, I
I'm
didn't
breaking
know
that
Johnny,
cycle.
no.
Yeah,
No,
my
I
dad
didn't
died
know.
an alcoholic. Yeah,
Wow, I didn't know.
I picked up his van. It was rattling. It was rattling with vodka bottles. Yeah, so
Wow.
yeah, so he died in 2008. So
Right. Wow.
but yeah, so there was that going on as well. Like change the karma for let's start something fresh. She's never gonna see me like that, you know.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful thing. I mean, fatherhood's kind of the best things ever happened to me, really.
That's incredible.
And what a blessing, you know. So I've got to use that. So it's been a catalyst for it. We spoke about it earlier. I've done a lot of it through pure willpower as well. And yeah, just real passion for wanting to feel good and looking after myself and probably finding that self-love that I haven't had for a long time. That I've kind of gone, wow, you know, love yourself a bit and find something else outside of what became normal as well, you know, in that sort of normalization that I've been craving, but also normalizing kind of substance abuse and changing circles. And it's a lonely journey though, you know. No one picks up the phone to see how you're doing, really, to be honest with you. But again, maybe there's something in me that kind of craves that as well. I don't know. It's okay when the phone's ringing, the party's still going, but what about when it stops? You know, no one gives a shit, really. You've got to do it on your own.
Did you find some support through any sort of mutual groups, or was there anyone else that you could really reach out to when you were early doors?
No, definitely. There's a good friend of mine. I did a lot of Buddhist chanting as well and meditation. I was on a bit of that spiritual path beforehand. And there's a really cool Buddhist that I got to know called Brian, and he's been in the program he's been in AA for like 12 years and CA. But he took me some meetings early on, but obviously lockdown happened as well, and I didn't really want to go down that road. I didn't want to go down the whole online classes, and which might be a bit naive of me, but also I've read all of the big book that they call it, and I've listened to Russell Brand a lot. His book Recovery is fantastic. So I've been getting my knowledge. I just haven't been kind of sharing like I am now sometimes, you know what I mean? I've kind of done it on my own, but I've just pure willpower.
That's
really
amazing.
Proud of myself.
That is amazing. And and listeners to this podcast will know that I bang on about this a lot. And a strong sense of ikigai, which the Japanese, is the word for purpose, for your creativity and your daughter, obviously, and your partner, and all of those things just gives you that sort of supercharges people's recovery in a way. Just sort of diving in a little bit to you phrased it as, I think you said dripping and drabbing before you wet the baby's head.
Oh, yeah.
The only reason I go back to that again and bring it up again is I'm sure there's a lot of listeners today who maybe, because sometimes when we think of a substance use problem or alcoholism or any of those things, and I know you haven't used that word, but they sort of have this idea that it's sort of every day and you're sort of living in a skip. But it sounds to me at the end that you were sort of in and out.
Yeah, massively. I wasn't I wouldn't say, and my new partner at the time, she wouldn't have said it. She would never have said I had a problem.
Yeah.
It was just these kind of, when you get around certain friends or peer groups and you go back into those old circles, it could go back there quite quickly. And that was a revelation to her. She'd been with me sort of year and a half, and she'd never seen me like that.
Yeah.
So that was and she's got a newborn baby in her arms. She's like, what's going on? Who is this person? It must have been pretty terrifying for her as well. But to me, again, it wasn't a problem.
So were you sort of going on a long binge, essentially?
I hadn't been out for 4 months because my daughter was born in January. It was like the April or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So it was like quite, you know what I mean? It was quite a shock night, And
mentally, were you starting to get sort of like quite crippling come downs? Was there sort of other consequences?
Yeah, just come down to the worst.
Right.
It gets so dark every time that you go back to it. It's like, whoa. Yeah. You just know, because if you've had long periods of away from it, it just feels really sort of heavy and sort of debilitating, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes binging, can be sometimes a bit more dangerous in a way, because you're giving your body and brain and everything else this rest, and then you're whacking it.
Yeah, and you pick up where you think you did, and you can't as well. That's the other thing. I just remember not being able to walk home very well. That's never a good time, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
When you're literally like walking forward like those drunks with the energy of your head so far forward, and you're like, it's awful, mate. It's not good. It's not a good look.
It's not. No, it really is not.
Yeah.
So in terms of sort of what you did next, so it's amazing. your trajectory from sort of actor into, talk us through a little bit about that, sort of how your career then, you know, morphed into other things.
Yeah, sure. I think standing on sets for a long time, you know, as an actor on that side of the camera, you're often watching and waiting, and it's a collaborative process. So you're picking up what's happening, but also energetically, a first assistant director is that person that kind of steers the ship, who's working on behalf of the director. So I always had a sort of passion for that. So that was a natural progression for me, where I got asked by a couple of mates to like produce work as a first AD on a couple of films.
Amazing.
So first assistant director then is in charge of the scheduling and sort of bringing in other HODs and running the floor every day. But I felt like I had a good idea for that, because I'd seen a lot. It's an energetic thing. You know when you need to kick the whip or whip the whip, or you know when you need to stand back and let things play out. But it's just that person driving the sets forward. So I did that for a while, made a few features, and then that kind of lends itself to a bit of associate producer as well. So I was helping raise a bit of money. Obviously, natural progression into producing from that as a stepping stone up. So started producing. A good friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, Ashley, in 2016, we set up Wild Street, and we made a bit of content. It was like a series of monologues set behind the backdrop of the Tube map. So it was kind of like a Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And then we put that to Channel 4, and they obviously, once you show your production values and what you want to make, they said, look, we're not making dramas at this level, but do you want to come in and pitch some ideas? So that was the kind of into production on making lots of other content.
Yeah.
Producing for Wild Street. And then, I think lockdown, again, that killed off the business, if you like, so we just weren't big enough to kind of brave that almost freelancer world. Went into, I did a screenwriting MA at Goldsmiths, which was really a great learning curve, massive revelation. Because again, just kind of want to be a creative. I want to make stuff happen. So that was the next journey. And then off the back of just freelancing again after my MA, I'm working in producing again at Bear Jam. So this, who knows what's going to come next. I might dip my toe back into acting as well. I did a little film in 2022. So I've left it alone. I parked it in 2016. I was like, I want to do something else.
Yeah.
Did 5 plays after coming out of the soaps, all like different levels, all above pubs or like at the Tabard, or just really nice pieces, a bit of Chekhov, Alan Ayckbourn, new bit of writing at the Southwark Playhouse. And I was like, okay, I can act. It's fine. I want to do something else. So it was just about fulfilling these little goals for yourself, and coming away from feeling like I can act. So I don't need to prove it to anyone but myself.
Absolutely. That's amazing, isn't it? You can always go back to it.
Yeah.
In terms of like someone listening to this, who obviously the creative industry is like so up and down.
Yeah.
And you know, that you get these intense highs and these sort of crushing lows.
Yeah.
How do you sort of manage that now? I mean, if there was sort of a young actor here with us now who is sort of coming out of drama school and they're, you know, self-taping and doing all of that hustle, have you got any sort of like advice for anyone creative really who's going into this business about how to keep your mental health on track?
Yeah, no, good one. I think fitness is key. I mean, like the last 5 years I've entered into like a lot of just using my body, like whether it be yoga or like a nice HIIT class. I think that is the ground root to kind of everything. Raise the endorphin levels, a lot of breathing. If you can do some like good Wim Hof technique, I think it's really good.
What was that you just said?
Wim Hof, he's the guy that does the ice bath and all of that.
Oh,
he's got a massive breathing program.
Okay.
Where he just takes you for a series of like 8 minutes of just breathing. You know, we forget to breathe, don't we, as human beings a lot of the time. We're not aware when we're holding our breath or when we are.
Yeah.
But as a creative, I think embrace the fun. I think I lost a lot of the fun. Try and find it again. You know, what is it? What started that appetite? Whether it's just doing things for yourself. I had the most fun I've ever done acting doing those 5 plays that I just talked about, because I was sort of doing it with mates, doing it for me. I didn't care. Some of them were 5-day runs, some of them was a month, but we found fun again. Like, you know, that's why you started out doing it, right?
Yeah.
Cool plays, have fun, enjoy, get a good group of people around you, your network, your collaborative network, and use them, you know. I think as a creative producer, I think what I learned to kind of balance things out is have lots of plates spinning, because sometimes if you've got all your eggs on that one basket, that one film, and it doesn't happen, it can feel quite demoralizing. Whereas if you've got a few other things, when one drops, it's not such a big deal because you've got that other one ticking over there, and kind of have that going. It's quite a healthy thing to do. I've learned to got better at that, where it's not so if that doesn't happen, it's the biggest be all and end all. It's like, okay, well, I'll pick up that, or I'll reinvent that. What does the market need? And then you can reevaluate it and go at it that way.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Would you suggest then sort of having lots of creative plates spinning?
Definitely. Yeah.
What's your thought around, I don't know, every performer or creative I've had on so far on the podcast, the kind of one or two camps that you shouldn't have a plan B, that actually you go all guns out for the creative life. And then I've got other people, which probably I probably lean a little bit more to this side, that you should not have a plan B, but like have a backup plan. What's your thought process for yourself on that? Have you sort of, would you advise someone to sort of have a sort of like a hustle job on the side, or just go all guns blazing on the creativity?
I don't know. I mean, it's good to know that the finances are taken care of, isn't it? Because that stops all the worrying of everything else. Our industry is not for the faint-hearted. So, like, you've got to have some sort of security blanket. It's going to make you feel good about whatever other sort of, if you go off and do a play for 4 months. I know a guy who was doing a play in the West End, and he was still keeping a job 3 days a week.
Right,
so I think it's good to have that stability, even if he was killing himself. But what is that happy medium? I'm not sure. I found it in working in other departments, because I felt like that still makes you a good actor, because I'm in around DOPs and camera, and I'm around certain other things that I find interesting, storytelling and everything. Whether you're doing a talking heads or a documentary, it's still there. It's the foundation of everything. So I didn't answer your question, but I think it's about having a little bit of stability. Because there's nothing, you can't be at your best when you're worrying about if you can pay your bills the next week, and there's a lot of bills that keep coming through. So strike that balance, whatever it is. But you might be able to find it if you just want to be dogged in the creative arts. You might be able to find an outlet where you need to do it. A friend of mine works in prisons, with her young offenders, and she's got an amazing drama program down there at Feltham. And it's like she's made a film with them, So it's like maybe find ways of it still ticking your boxes rather than having to drag you so far away from the dream aspect. But also, I think as well, having some time out sometimes is good. You might not be ready to play that part right now, but find ways of coming back to it. I don't think the dream's got to be 3 years of drama school. Do you know what I mean? It hasn't got to be in the 3 years or the 3 years after that. It's a long game. It's one of the only industries, especially acting, where you could have a career you could start a career in 40, and go for 30 years. It depends when you want to have it. An actor I worked with, he basically, he did his kind of normal career for like 30 years. Now he just does acting. He got that foundation of whatever his career was. I think it was in marketing for 30 years. Now he just does everything acting. That's so much fun. He's made about 30 films. But he's done it later on. That's because that was his dream. And now all he does is act. Takes anything, like on Mandy.com, any parts, any freebies. But he's every time he's doing a film, he's getting better.
Absolutely.
So find your ways of doing that as well. I think that's really important. What do you want to do? Find ways of getting there.
Yeah. What were you like when you were, I mean, obviously you're still an actor as well, but when you were sort of auditioning maybe more regularly, how were you with the whole kind of audition process and rejection? And because obviously as a filmmaker and as creative, you still, I guess you're coming up with treatments and scripts and you're showing people. How do you deal with a no sort of now?
I mean, it's the whole thing's rejection, isn't it? So how do we get to like that and become, I don't think it ever gets any easier, but I just feel like it's not all the, it's not the be all and end all when you get a no. Now you can find ways of turning it into a yes. But I didn't like the audition process towards the end. I really didn't. So I find ways now of someone offers me a part. It's normally someone I've worked with. I go in and do it. And, any kind of job, that's the way I find it's working with people. But I would go back in the rooms now. I think it'd be a healthy time to do it. I think when you're not in any kind of other madness, it's a good time. You can sort of look people in the eye in a genuine way and start again. You know?
Absolutely.
Build new relationships. There'll be a whole new load of cast directors now that I've never met, so that'd be good.
That is so true as well. I know as well, talking off air, that this whole thing of enjoying the journey that you're on is a big thing for you rather than destination. I just wondered if you could just expand on that slightly, because I think that is important, isn't it? How do you do that? How do you sort of, not cling on to an expectation or, you know, an outcome, particularly when maybe you've worked so hard on a script or spent so long on an audition. How are you able to sort of separate the two? I know, I appreciate that's a hard question.
Yeah, I know, that is a good one. Well, it's funny, even after my MA, I thought, you know, here's my writing trajectory now, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
But what I've realised is I've got the tools now to do things in my own time and actually pick up that and find the enjoyment in it. So I've got a few good ideas that I'm working on, but I'm kind of doing it for me. It's this thing of being an actor, doing the 5 plays after the Shapes ended, and I was like, actually, that was what it was about. I was doing it for myself. So it's having fun with yourself and setting your own goals.
Yeah.
So that you're doing it with that sense of, it doesn't matter if no one buys into it. Is it doing it for you? Is it making you happy?
Yeah.
You know, because ultimately all that rejection is turning you against sometimes what actually you're setting out to do, what your love is, you know, like nobody should be able to stop you doing anything you want to do.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, often sometimes we've got this £1 million film we want to make. Well, make a grand film first.
Yeah.
Then make 100 grand, and then make a 500 grand, and then make £1 million movie, because nobody's going to let you build a house unless you've built one for £1,000, are they? They're not going to give you the keys to. So I feel like that's the journey you have to go on, and be honest with yourself. Where are you really at this time?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what is the standard, you know? But find your voice as well, I think, especially with writing, but also as an actor, as an artist. What's your identity? What is it? Are we in the right space for what your casting bracket is? I know that's bollocks, but sometimes we can see ourselves as, actually, what is it that we should be playing at that time?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I've always had a mindset. I don't now, but I used to have a mindset of sort of cheating the system, that I could somehow always get lucky. I always sort of thought that if I bought a lottery ticket, I sort of had an expectation that I'd probably win it. Yeah. It's mad. I remember sort of early on in my career, I'd get an audition and I'd already be worrying about clashes with other things. And my agent would be like, "We haven't got the job yet." So I'd just be assuming I'd be getting it. It was weird. But it wasn't so much blind confidence. It was more just this weird expectation that I sort of had on things. And something that you said, you know, when we were having a coffee before coming on in here, was accept failure.
Yeah, definitely.
But you said it in a positive way, and I just wondered if I could probe you on that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I listened to this somewhere else, but fail forward. You know, like I feel like it's important that you are willing to make an arse of yourself. I think some of the best actors, like, you know, they wouldn't care about it. It's the journey, it's the process, isn't it? It's like getting it wrong. You know, we're so scared of getting it right. Yeah. It's like, so to fail and enjoy it, and that's all part of it. That bit of rejection that you got was probably good at that time. You didn't get it. It's like, cool, like, how can I use that? Let it fire you up a little bit, I think. Rather than it all being about the negative that sends, because I've been there, like, that sends you just down the wrong way. You've got to learn to flip it. I think Russ Tovey's a great actor. He loves auditions. He's found a way to psychologically enjoy an audition rather than thinking about doom and gloom, which a lot of people do. They go into it the wrong mindset. It's like, he loves the process.
Bryan Cranston's got a similar thing
exactly.
about it.
I heard about that. He said your job's only about getting a recall or getting penciled. Everything else is out of your control. I mean, I've sat on the other side when the decisions of a client, it's like so ridiculous. We just forget that. It's like, you've gone in there, you've showed your humanity, you've kind of got in the door. That's enough. You've done it. You haven't got to do any more. It's not down to you. All you can do is know your lines.
And particularly with screen, right? I mean, it can come down to eye colour and, you know, all sorts of things like that.
And who else they're casting as well, and whether you're going to fit in. I think they think about the overall picture of how everyone's going to kind of gel, work with that director or work with this specific, you know, production team.
That's why I think the word rejection is such a toxic word, actually, because it's often not, is it, right?
What do you flip it to, though? What do you think? Because acceptance is a good one. Acceptance of what is, so that is exactly what that is in that moment, but we've just kind of labelled it.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine I'm sure there is the odd occasion where it's like, this person just isn't good enough for this part and it's down to talent. But I think once you get to a certain level, it's not really about that. It's about those little, like you say, who else has been cast. All of those things are out of your control, aren't they? Can't do anything about that.
Yeah. Definitely. It comes down to money as well. Like, who's, you know, especially like bigger budgets, who's going to put the bums on seats.
Well, if anyone's listening, I'm a bit cheaper, so just come to me. No, just come to me if you're worried about budget, hire me. Yeah, brilliant.
But you still love it though, don't you? Want to get back into it and still doing stuff?
Yeah, I'm still cracking the whip, you know. I've been quite fortunate really. I think for me it's just been about you know, I've had big spikes in my career as well where I've just gone wow, and then it sort of thought, well, this is now going to lead to like, you know, like stairs going to go on to, and it's not been like that for me. It's been like the S&P 500, these sort of big jumps and then massive crashes. And I just completely accept that that's the journey I'm on now. And I don't really have much expectation beyond that because it just feels so out of my control. I think for me, it's just about persistence and consistency. Yeah. I almost see it, this might sound really negative and weird, but like trying to break out of prison, you know, I've got this little, every day I'm just going to do my little,
we're doing a Shawshank.
I'm doing a Shawshank. And I think most things in life, if you're consistent and persistent, the results will come, and just don't give up. Just keep going.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how I feel. But that doesn't scare me anymore. And I've got no kind of sense that if I don't get X, Y, Z, that my world's going to fall apart. Yeah. And I think that's because I feel like I've got a bigger purpose, I suppose, rather than, you know, being just an actor. Nothing against being an actor, it's amazing, but I don't, that isn't my whole like soul and identity anymore. It's just something that I do and I enjoy, I suppose.
Well, also you know, you've got you help others in the business that are on their trajectory, and I think that's a really good thing, because when you give back, whether it's people in, you know, the rooms or whatever else, or I think that's a really good thing. You're giving back to other people. I think that's the biggest gift of it all. It's amazing. I mean, you know, I love acting, but, you know, doing this podcast, it sort of aligns with all my beliefs. And, you know, my theatre school, youth development, just love doing that. The rehab work, I get so much from that. That acting work or voiceover work, it's just such a cherry on the cake now. As before it was the cake and the only cake sort of thing. It's a weird psychology that though, isn't it? Because you're giving, you get more energy actually from just trying to be the one that's sort of taking, like make it about yourself, you know, you make it about other people. So it's actually, it's positive. Yeah. It's been the only way out of my own darkness, actually, that kind of mechanism. Which brings me back to a word you talked about earlier when you said about getting clean, you know, 2015, if I got that right. I actually, I'm 5 years now. So, 5 years you said, But I mean, I've been trying for multiple years, like to get, but it's been my cleanest in 25 years, like straightest and honest. You did say 5 years, and I converted that into 2015. No. That was when I left the soaps and stuff like that. 2015. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. You said a word, karma, which is quite interesting. A lot of people I've had on this podcast who've gone to a dark place. You might have always had a spiritual side to yourself. I don't know. What does that mean to you, karma, personally? Yeah, I think karma is, you know, cause and effect. You know, what you put in, you get back, you know. So the kind of darkness is going to come back, and you're going to have to feel whatever that is. I feel like, you know, if you're doing good, it's going to be good. I don't know. That's, for me, it's like that karmic loop. If you want to, that's what I said about karmic, breaking the karma for me is like, my dad showed me one side, which I love him to pieces, but like I'm breaking that because it wasn't right. It led him to nowhere. You know, he's dead at 65. Right. Yeah. You know, a year after his pension. So like I'm changing behaviour. I'm changing something in myself that was given. Yeah. You know, we are taught things by our peers, or at least we should be. We should be shown the way. It wasn't his fault. He did the best he could with the tools he was given. Yeah. But what I can do is change the karma for my daughter. I can show what I believe is not normal, not right, or a different way. You know, that's what I believe it is. Yeah. So karma can be across the board and lots of different things like that. Seemed key for you to, you know, stop drinking and drugging for that for you personally, for that mechanism to kick in. Wasn't doing me any favours anymore mentally, and killing my spirituality as well. Like I feel like I do think there's something about substance abuse though, that you do take things to another level where like some of the nights out, I wouldn't say like I had some good nights out as well. Sure. I'm not going to say it was all doom and gloom. Otherwise I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be beating myself up I just think towards the end it was like, this isn't working for me. It was becoming more and more dark, you know, and like the come downs were 50 times worse each time, you know, like that. You know, I mean, like you say, detox almost, and you go back to picking up how you thought you could, you haven't got the tools, you haven't got the minerals to do that anymore. It's like your body's changed and it's not accepting it.
Yeah. And I don't want to be accused on this podcast of kind of like bashing drugs and alcohol. I know for lots of people, they use it moderately, and it's a very positive thing in most people, a lot of people's lives. I wouldn't say most, but in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
But I do think also there's a subset of people that sort of won't accept, and I was one of them, that for a long period of time, a drink for me was great. And it did exactly what it said on the tin. And actually, I only used to drink on weekends, and it was all fairly kind of normal. Then it crossed into something else. And every time I took a drink, it might not be in that evening, but always the next day, and usually within the night itself, I'd go into the darkness, to the point where friends would say to me, "Oh, Ollie's gone to the dark side." And I'd be like, I didn't really know what they meant. And I quite enjoyed it at times. But same for me, I had to put everything down to kind of get everything back.
Yeah.
They say, don't they, the recovery is giving up one or two things for everything else, and addiction is, giving up everything else for one or two things. It's like, well, what do you want here?
Yeah.
Do
you think there's a little bit as well? I mean, it was for me, because my working life balance, it wasn't going very well as well. It was affecting my work and everything else. I think that made me fight harder for whatever I believed this journey's been, because I think the worst, not the worst, but the functioning alcoholics or the functioning drug users that have got the facade of everything being okay and nothing, the world hasn't crumbled.
Yeah.
I'm glad my world crumbled a little bit, if I'm honest with you, because I think to be in that denial as well is slightly harder. Functioning and it's all being okay and everyone sees it okay. Yeah. Actually, it's not. It's a fire behind the door,
Yeah. There's a GIF on WhatsApp that often comes up. If you write, "I'm fine," there's a dog in a house and it's on fire. And sometimes it can feel like that with a substance misuse problem,
I've seen that. It's a good meme, actually.
Yeah, and it's sort of thing, that's kind of what the end of drinking and drugging is for a lot of people. It was the end of my drinking for sure. You mentioned as well that you had a period of trying to get clean and relapsing. I'm sure there's going to be people listening to this who are in that boat at the moment. I don't know how specific you want to be about what specific substances. It's entirely up to you. But I wondered if you could talk directly to someone who's maybe listening at the moment, who's in the same boat as you then, and they're in and out. They're trying to get off it and they can't. You obviously had the persistence to keep trying.
Yeah.
What words of encouragement maybe could you give to someone who's listening to this?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're doubting it, you're doing things that are hurting yourself or also hurting other people around you, or maybe not. I mean, I just feel like for me, it was about just the feeling. It wasn't working for me anymore.
Yeah,
and a little bit of shame and guilt and all of this feelings all the time. It's like, what is all that about? Living in this kind of state of shame.
And that triggers another use up.
It triggers another thing, like this sort of like. I just feel like if it's becoming a problem for you where you're doing things that's either sabotaging your health and your life or your work or your people that you love, often I wasn't doing good things to other people as well once I was using, like, lack of respect for them, myself. I just feel like it's that, really. It's again, it comes back to that karma of like, bite you in the arse at some point. And I feel like maybe if someone's dabbling and it's not working for them, I think reach out, to someone, have a little chat, and maybe it's someone who's been through multiple years of alcoholism and just maybe they were feeling the same too. Maybe there's a bit of wisdom out there they could tap into, and just to find that. Yeah. 'Cause it's great when you meet other people that are like-minded. We were talking earlier about it's a real positive time to being sober and sobriety. It feels like it's kind of cool now. You know what I mean? It's
what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. So I wish
it's great. What's going on? It's cool, but slightly weird.
Yeah, and there's some good. I remember growing up, it was only Caliber. It was pretty bad to drink. But now there's some really nice beer brands that if you want to get a little bit of psychosomatic, we talked about this before, but like some people can't do that. But I don't mind standing with a 0% beer. It doesn't bother me. It's quite nice because actually I haven't got to talk about. I can drive the car home at the end of the night. I haven't got to worry about it. But I don't feel like so alien from being in a drinking environment. It doesn't bother me anymore. Yeah,
it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of debate around 0% drinks with people, who maybe have come through the other side of alcoholism or not. And I think it's such a personal thing, isn't it?
Doesn't work for everyone, exactly, because it could send them down it could be a massive trigger.
Would you have used 0% drinks early on, do you think? Or have you used them from the beginning?
Not really, no.
Right, okay.
I've used them sort of last 5 or 10 years, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got better tasting. It's purely about that.
I mean, specifically in early recovery, when you when you got clean, as you put it, were you sort of using them sort of in the first week?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
It was more like later on, like when I got used to being in social environments again, that would trigger things that I'd kind of go, okay, I'm all right now. I can. But yeah, for a couple of years, it was tough to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with 0% drinks, anyone listening to this, probably the early doors, probably best avoided. But like you say, once you get to a place of strength, some people it's an absolute game changer. They love it. For me personally, I wouldn't.
No, of course,
that's not to say that's right or wrong.
Yeah,
it's a complete personal thing.
Yeah. The wine's terrible. Don't ever bother with the wine.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, I remember early on, I'd get like a Diet Coke in a tumbler.
Okay, that's nice. So just feel that way.
Yeah. No one really knows what it is. But like you say, no one cares now. I mean, I can't remember anyone in years actually. If I'm in a pub, like, what are you drinking? I say Diet Coke. Most people just go, cool.
Yeah.
Whereas before, someone said that to me, I wouldn't say it, but I'd be thinking, this is a pub.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
if you're in a pub, you're gonna have a proper drink. If you want a Diet Coke, go to Disneyland, mate. Do you know what I mean? I'd be having this. I'd be angry.
Yeah.
So I assumed everyone else would be the same, but everyone's like, oh, fine. And I'm like, okay, that's a relief.
Yeah, it's true.
How do you? And I'm really gutted, John, because we're starting to run out of time here, mate.
Right.
How do you sort of keep your mental health on track now so that you don't sort of reach for substances or drink? Obviously, you're really busy creatively and you've got your daughter. And how do you sort of stay on top of that going forward?
Yeah, I think it's just about being aware of decisions that you make. I think I'm a lot more into, like, on a day-to-day, like, looking after myself a bit more. So I've got that at the top of my mindset, eating as well as training and things like that. So I think there's a book I read about making your bed, like, start with the little things because they all add up. So I feel like it's like, make my bed, I'll do a bit of reading. I'm positive as opposed to kind of letting that negativity in, which I think sometimes can be how big that door keeps creeping open. It can be, especially early on in your recovery. I feel like it's watching all the little moments because they can lead to big things.
Yeah.
Is
there anything that's sort of triggering for you now? Is there sort of something that you have to look out for? I mean, like, for me, it's burnout. I can easily drift into, I don't want to call it workaholism, but because it's not as extreme as that, but I can sometimes use work as a way to kind of fill that energy, that thing.
Yeah.
Do
you know what I'd have to watch would be death? And I know this has come up for me before because I just buried my head in the sand for my dad and people that I've loved. I think that would be a big thing for me if I lost someone again. So that's where I'd have to be careful. I'd definitely have to watch that. I know that's quite big and tragic, but I know people are getting older and, I'm getting older. I'm going to see a lot more of it. I just feel like, that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Death. And I think a funeral would be a trigger, like in that moment, whether it would lead to another multiple years of going down the dark alleys, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it might just be something to keep an eye on.
Definitely.
I think everything else I'm pretty cool with kind of proves that so far.
They would be the moments, and this is not me sort of, counselling you or giving you a therapy session, and I'm talking to myself here as well when I say this. I think they're the moments where you just have to reach out, right?
Yeah. Phone to someone and say, look, I'm going to go through this today. What would you say? And make sure someone checks in on you. But I mean, you be around people that you love. But that would be definitely something for me to watch out for. Yeah,
for sure. John, I'm so chuffed you've come down.
That's all right. Thank you for having me.
I know how busy you are. So to poach you for an hour down in sunny Vauxhall.
Yeah, here we are.
Absolutely brilliant. Thanks to Vauxhall Podcast Studios.
Thank you.
And it's been absolutely brilliant. We'll have a little chat off air maybe if there's any extra links you want me to put. But guys, please go straight to the show notes now. You can find out how to follow John and also links to projects and other things there that are going on. I'll whack it all in there. I'm so chuffed with the numbers coming through Spotify and Apple. Please do me a favor. If you're on Spotify right now, can you hit the follow button? And can you also give me 5 stars? And if you want to give me less than 5 stars, just don't do it, basically. But that really helps the algorithm. If you're on Apple right now, could you please write a review and give 5 stars as well. Sorry, I'm really like coming across as desperate here, aren't I? But yeah, it does massively help the algorithm, particularly the review. And YouTube is now really, it's full steam ahead now. So this is great. Please hit subscribe. I probably should have said that at the beginning, and like it. And of course, share this episode with anyone that you think will get value from it. John, thanks once again, mate.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me.
It's been lovely seeing you.
You too.
I hope we don't leave it so long next time.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be absolutely brilliant. And as always promised, I will see you on School of Rock Bottom in 2 weeks' time. Take care of yourself. Thanks.